Hello there and welcome to this week's edition of Money Matters, because as you know, I passionately believe that money does matter. In the first episode of this villa series, we looked at the villa before we started, the planning permission, all of that stuff. In the second episode, we went on site, we met some of the builders physically, we met the contract manager. What we're going to do this week is we're going to look at the paperwork, the weekly report. I'm going to show you a €46,000 bill. Should I pay it or not? I now want to look at how do we control this project, this villa project, which is roughly £500,000 spend, even when we're not there. How do we know that what's going on the ground is right and proper and we should pay for it? You've heard me say this before. Brickwork will make you some money, paperwork will make you a fortune. So I've got a series of documents here that I want to share with you. So the first one that I'm going to share with you, this is the weekly report from our project manager, Jean, who you met in video number 2, who happens to be an architect. So every week, he sends us a copy of the site meeting between him and the builder, or the various trades, and he outlines if there's any issues. Monday the 7th of November, 2020, he's put 2020, 2022 at 8 o'clock on site is what that says. And he set timelines and he set deadlines. So this was just the first meeting. So he's just set out, well, what is it we're trying to do and how long have we got? So do we need to cut off the water, the electricity, and all that sort of stuff. This is Wednesday the 15th of November. And again, it's on site. And he's now talking about, well, how have the works carried on? And as they began to go into the project, you might have heard me say this last time. So we've now got a complete report, and he also sends us pictures of what's going on, what the architect is talking to, what actions are being agreed. When they started to find issues and when they started to, well, how are we going to deal with those issues, that's when we need to have a discussion. And obviously, if everything goes to plan and all of the different contractors send their bills to the architect personally signs off. So they say, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this. He will personally check that they've done it. Because very often it's not a binary, they've done it or they haven't. It's like 40% progress on that thing or 30% progress on that thing. And the stage payment, because that's what it's called, we make payments in stages, are related to the work of the project. What we wanted was an infinity pool. And there was some discussion backwards and forwards between the builder and the architect about the best way to achieve that. This is the solution. So obviously that's looking from the top. So that's called a plan view. And you can see the big swimming pool. And then you can see the reservoir, if I translate. So it's overflowing into that reservoir. But then you just do detailed calculations like, well, how big should that reservoir be? What should the flow rate be? How much tank capacity do they need? And then, if we look through, this is called a section. We're now looking from the side, but it's sort of cut through, if you like. And this shows the main swimming pool with the overflow reservoir. So these are the sorts of things that we need to be able to sign off and approve. And I guess I've got a certain advantage in that sense because I am an engineer. I can do these calculations. So you either need to absolutely trust the person that's providing this for you, or perhaps you need to have someone like a quantity surveyor or someone like that actually managing the project. And so let me just show you a few more of these pictures here. So here we've got the vans. This is the parking area that they were talking about. Here we've got the swimming pool empty. So you should have seen that on video number 2. More recently, on video number 2, you saw the ceiling or the roof of the patio had been scraped away. And you saw them breaking up the concrete. And now what you can see is they're starting to form the roof or the ceiling from the inside of the 2 extra bedrooms and the bathroom. So you can see progress there. And obviously seeing it pictorial in a picture, it's very good proof that these things are actually happening. This, you can actually see, well, you might not recognize it, but that's the edge of the swimming pool. And you can see they've started to build the reservoir there. This black area is the overflow reservoir. So they've cast all that, which is good. That's the reservoir being supported from the outside. So these things are props. You might get them here referred to as acro props. So these are things that hold They're very strong. They hold things up that would otherwise collapse while they're being set. And here you can see, so the two modifications you might have heard me talking to Jean, the architect, when we were physically there last time were, number one, there was a crawl space at the other end. So we need to change a door into a window and make some other minor modifications. But now you can see right the way through the whole length of that building in that picture. Yeah, and then you can see on the inside, and the old crawl space, well, it's not very clear from the picture. I can see exactly where it is. It's behind this piece of boarding here. So those are the two modifications that you need to talk to me about, and those are the two agreements. So things will change. In a project of this size, it's almost inevitable that things will change. Okay, so the last document I want to show you as part of these series of pictures and documents is this one, because this is the first bill from the main contractor. So the agreement is they'll invoice us once a month, but look at it. This is just page 1. And then we've got page 2 and page 3, and there's probably 60 or 70 line items on there. Then you've got another 10 on the last page, and it all adds up to €42,217.60. And then they're going to add on VAT. I don't want to confuse you, but the VAT depends on what they're doing. There's different kinds of VAT for different elements. And the total is $46,439.36. So how do we know whether we should pay it or not? So we've got a clear process. They send us a bill once a month. On receipt of the bill, we've got 10 days to pay them. So they're cash flowing on average 5 or 6 weeks of cash flow for us. Now, what we do, our process, is that we get the project manager, in this case the architect, you can see his stamp on there, Jean's stamp on there, and he said, this is his handwriting, good for payment, bon, pour payment, and so he's then written it all out by hand, the long version. So we now know that he's checked, and he believes that is the correct amount that we should be paying for the stage of the work that it's at. And if he gets it wrong, so for instance, if he told the builder to put that overflow on the swimming pool and do this and do that and reinforce it like this, and then to be ridiculous, it fell off, crunch, oops, we need to do that again. Anything like that is covered by his professional indemnity insurance. So just the same as a solicitor or an accountant or anything like that. If he gives the wrong advice to us, pay the person, and we shouldn't have done, either because the work hasn't been done, it's been done badly, or he's told them to do the wrong thing, then we're insured. Now, that's super important because I just want you to think about, so often in the UK, people will get double glazing put in, or they'll get an extension put on, or they'll get a conservatory put on. Just put in the comments below, what's the maximum you've ever spent on I've even seen people do extensions, like double story, double height extensions. And it might be a 100, 150, 200,000 pound extension. They got no paperwork. All they've got is an estimate. They're paying against that estimate. And before the builder even starts, they've given them like a £50,000 deposit to go and buy some whatever it is. So why do we do that? Why do we hand over tens of thousands of pounds? Because we think that everybody does it that way. No, don't do it that way. In the UK in particular, can't really do that, well, can't do it here in France, use a JCT. So that's JCT, minor works contract. It's the documents are there. A reputable builder should help you fill it in. How much do they have to pay you in compensation if they're a week late, 2 weeks late, a month late? All these things should be clear. What's the payment terms? So all of these things should be really, really clear. And I just want to give you an example from my past where despite having good, strong contracts in place and so on, it can still go wrong. And just every time there's a reward, there's a risk. So we had a block and we were converting it from some offices into 5 flats. This was up in Scotland. The contract was in place, stage payments were agreed, and what was happening was that the main contractor, we didn't know this, was in serious trouble, and they were employing subcontractors. Nothing unusual about that. We were paying the main contractor in line with our obligations. What he wasn't doing was paying the subcontractors. So I just went along there one Monday morning to find a whole bunch of very unhappy subcontractors that essentially said, quite reasonably, where's my money? And I said, well, I've paid the main contractor. And they said, well, he hasn't paid us, and we're not working unless you pay us. And the main contractor's business went bust. So we couldn't pursue that main contractor because he'd gone bust. He'd gone bust with our money, so we had to pay twice for the same work. One of the subcontractors decided that they would step up and they'd become the main contractor. We did the due diligence and everything else, but I'm not aware of a due diligence resource that covers how much somebody drinks. So what happened the second time round was that this guy, the new main contractor, decided to go out one evening, Saturday night, had a lot to drink, and, you know, fine, who am I to judge? Unfortunately, he got into a fight. Unfortunately, he ended up in jail. And, you know, so yet again, we're now starting again for the third time, because the first company's gone bust, the second guy's ended up in jail. And what did I do the third time? I thought, you know what, sod it, I'll manage it myself. I am an engineer, I can do this. But in all, touch wood all the way around for good luck. In all the years, in 40 plus years now, that I've been doing this, been doing property and property investment, I've only ever had a problem on one job, and it's just sod's law that I had two sets of problems on the same job. So please don't do it. Don't hand over tens or hundreds of thousands of pounds to any trade or any business before they've done some work. Have a sensible contract in place, because even though for the last 40 odd years I've put those kind of contracts in place, I've still had problems twice. Imagine how many times I would have had problems if I'd have had nothing in place and it was all on a handshake and, you know, a bit of a wing and a prayer. If you've been taken advantage of in the past, if you don't want to be taken advantage of in the future, don't you go away with the idea that property doesn't work. It's your processes and your systems don't work. Please make sure you've got the right contracts, the right processes, the right sign-off procedures, and you will be far, far safer. Will you be perfectly safe? No. But you'll be far, far safer. Make sure everyone's insured, make sure that they've got professional indemnity insurance. And that way, worst case, they fall over, you can still claim on their insurance. Okay, I hope I haven't scared you too much with all the things that can go wrong, because on this project, nothing's gone wrong. We've had a couple of little issues, we've addressed them, that's fine. And I'm sure we'll have another XYZ issues before we're finished. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that edition of the Villa videos. As you can see, I really mean it when I say it, that brickwork will make you a living, paperwork will make you a fortune. So this week it's been paperwork, but it's super important, especially in a project this size. So one last reminder, if you haven't already subscribed and hit the notification bell, please do. And I look forward to seeing you on the next edition of Money Matters, because as you know, I deeply, truly believe that money matters not for its own sake, but for the choices that it gives to each and every one of us. Just a little exercise for you. Think about the thing that's most important to you. Is it your family? Is it your health? Is it travel? Whatever it is. And then what I want you to do is write down next to it, whatever it is, 20 things that extra money or wealth would help you do. So wealth, just remember, that's where you get money in exchange for none of your time. So a property giving you rent or whatever. What are the benefits that that extra money could create for the most important thing in your life? See you next time.